situation, or the we. Now, but Jesus was wounded for transgressions. But Jesus was bruised for iniquities. The chastisement for Wade's peace was upon Jesus. And by Jesus' stripes, Wade is healed. And this is something just tremendous. This is what he came to do. This is what the prophet Isaiah spoke to us. This is why the Christ would come. He would come as a substitute for sinners. He would come for us. I mean, you look at some of the descriptions on this. These aren't good people that he comes to die for. These aren't good people that he comes to take care of stuff for. Look at this. It says that he was wounded for our transgressions. I'm sure you've heard that word, trespasses or transgressions, the same kind of word there. Now, what's a trespass? You've seen the fence up, you go out somewhere. When I was a kid, we used to go down. There was a creek that was there, and we used to go through the bushes and everything else and come across some barbed wire, and there was a little sign that it says, no trespassing. It means what? Don't go there. Stay out. God said don't, and what did we do? God said don't steal. And we took. It was just something small. It makes no difference. You want to bet? God is holy. It makes a big deal. The lying, just the deceit, trying to live out a life, maybe if it's hypocrisy or living out a life of just making everyone think that you're something that you're not. It's deceit. The lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, the boasting what we haven't do, just living like everybody else in the world. It's going where God said don't. That's serious business. Notice the other words that are used here. the words that transgressions and iniquities. The Bible speaks of iniquities or the guilt of iniquities, the iniquity of our sin. It's like a stain on the soul. You know, the ones you can't get rid of. You close your eyes at night and it just keeps coming back again and again and again. Or you bow to pray maybe, and it's like it just keeps hitting you. You're not worthy. You're not good enough. You're not this. You're not that. Well, the iniquities that you can't wash away yourself. You can cleanse your hands in like some nice soap or whatever, your fairy soap great. But what do you use to cleanse your soul? How can you cleanse your inner man? Good works won't do it. Doing good stuff won't wash away the bad stuff. It won't take it away. That's why God sent Christ. Because he was the one that came in our place. Or sin. We use this word, at least in church circles. I have to back up. People don't tend to use that word much anymore. Not even in church circles. They say, oh, it's a mistake. It's a weakness. No, God says it's sin. Christ came to die for sin. And when he hung on that cross, he took our sin. You know what sin is? It's an old archery term. It means to miss the mark. So you think anybody ever done archery and you grab your arrow and you pull the bow back and you're like aiming at the bullseye and whoosh. Oh man, I was like that close. You sinned. You missed the mark. You didn't hit the bullseye. Or you're like shooting the wrong direction. You know something? It doesn't matter how far you miss the mark when you miss the mark. When it comes to this, there is no like almost. The Bible calls it sin. God is holy. And like we've majorly missed the mark. But see, this is the good news. This is what the prophet Isaiah said 700 to 750 years before Christ came. This is why he would come. He was the one that was wounded for it. He was the one that was bruised for them. He was the one that came and took the chastisement, all the abuse that was upon him, the scourging that he took by his stripes. For he bore the sin of many and made intercession for the transgressors. He made intercession. It's like being a lawyer, and he's like the best one you could ever get, and he's never lost a case ever. And so like he gives the defense and says, Father, I've paid it on their behalf. You can't get anyone better. You can't get any better solution. This is God's solution. This is what he said long before it ever took place. So that our hearts can be assured. He's told us that these things are the reason why Christ came. He is our substitute. This prophetic word that was given was fulfilled when Christ came into this world. Okay, so now, understanding that now, as we start thinking about these 7 sayings of Jesus Christ while he was on the cross, we keep in mind, he did this for me. He did this for me. Jesus did this for, fill in your name. He did this for me. We're not stretching anything. This is exactly what God has said in his word, that this is why Christ came as a substitute for sinners, for me. Now, open up your Bibles to the book of Mark, and we're going to look real quickly at the amount of time that Jesus spent there on the cross. The Bible is very clear in Mark chapter 15, verse 25. Now, understanding something of the time scale of the way things were, the day sort of went from 6 a.m. in the morning till 6 p.m. in the evening. And there were the hours were numbered all the way through the day. Okay, you got 12 hours there. So you get hour 1, hour 2, hour 3, and so forth. And so in Mark 15 and verse 25, you find out, well, when was it that Jesus was crucified? When was he placed on the cross? What does it say there? It says it was the 3rd hour. That he was on the cross in the 3rd hour. Now, if you were to calculate that through, okay, 6 a.m. in the morning, 1, 2, 3, that means that Jesus was placed on the cross somewhere right around, or the 3rd hour, which would be about 9 a.m. in the morning. 9 a.m. in the morning. Now, if you look at verse 33, you'll find something else. There's another time frame that's mentioned to you. In verse 33, it mentions which hour? The 6th hour. That's now noon. So between 9 a.m. and noon is how many hours? 3 hours. Now, if you look on, you'll see in the next verse, in verse 34, it tells you what happens as Jesus is dying now, and he's giving up his spirit, and now he's coming to the end, and it says it's the 9th hour. So just after the 9th hour. So what you've got now is you've got about 6 hours. From 9 a.m. in the morning to 3 p.m. in the afternoon. This Jesus Christ of Nazareth, the God of glory, is hanging on the cross in our place. The Bible records for us 7 things that he says during this time. 7 things that he quotes during this time. And when we think about crucifixion, let me just remind you of something. For anyone to say anything on the cross is quite extreme. For anyone to say anything on the cross is quite extreme. Because when the Romans developed crucifixion, they were walking in a long line of those who had perfected public execution. The Phoenicians, they were really into it. They did everything from like impaling people and draining blood and that kind of thing. The Romans, they were able to take crucifixion to like a whole nother level. They were able to do crucifixion so that it would be long, that it would be painful, that it would be humiliating, and so that as they did it publicly, that whoever did the crime that this person was being crucified for, others would see it and they would be deterred from actually doing anything along the lines of what that criminal had done. And so what happens is that they would take an individual and they would take a spike and they would place it through each hand here, and they would take the person